Hey, it's Karl here again with Slick Rooster Studio. I have been away from YouTube for, gosh, I think I did a video 9 days ago or something. It was just a little short one. I've been very busy on Instagram learning that. I'm not a social media guy, haven't been, but I understand the importance of, as I'm trying to get the studio rolling, uh, utilizing the social media that's available. Mainly, I've been doing Instagram. Uh, and obviously YouTube. Um, I did start a Tumblr account, but only because when I post on Instagram, I can just click the button that says automatically post over to Tumblr. I think I've got a follower or something on Tumblr. It's not. I'm not seeing a lot of traffic over there, so I'm not that worried about it. Uh, Tried Twitter, not super impressed at all with Twitter. It's That's more of a, well, social media. It's a lot of it's not what I would consider a great platform for marketing. Um, I know a lot of people do it. I know there's a lot of people on it. I just Between Instagram and YouTube, that'll keep me busy for a year, getting kind of caught up with everybody else. I have a lot of reviews to do. This is what I'm doing today. Is finally getting started. I have uh, over the last 10 years, I've been buying art supplies. And I tell myself, or have told myself, that I'm doing it because I'm going to do product reviews because I really enjoy product reviews. I like being able to look and see what other people think about a product before I spend money on it. Money is money, and when you're talking, a $200 investment for a set of paints, I want to know that it's going to work right. So I have looked at those in the past, and I find a lot of them are kind of there's not enough information. There's a lot of duplication out there, just regurgitating what I just saw in the last video, the last video, the last video. I'm trying to do things with my studio, and so I'm contemplating a couple of books. I want to do different things. I don't want to just regurgitate. This is how you do perspective, and here's the train tracks running out. I don't want to do that. Um, that well, just regurgitation. It's I would rather reference books and things that are already out there, um, and then focus on what I could bring to the table, uh, if I figure out what that is. So what I've been working on or trying to get set up is my little studio where I can go through all these sets of art supplies that I got. I think I've got 18 of these palettes with different brands of watercolors set up. Um, and I kind of do the same layout. I'll buy, 18 tubes of paint from one brand or another, um, and one of these guys, and kind of do them all the same. And my intention is to go through, uh, do a good review of each one of them, and use them enough to get comfortable with being able to give a review, an educated review, because I have used them to create art, uh, and then, you know, carry on and sally forth, I guess. So I haven't really had time to do that. I haven't been set up to do that over the last 10 years. And now I'm finally getting to a point where I can settle down and and take care of some of these things that I've been putting off. So Lukas has been, gosh, for the last 10 years, one of the real prevalent watercolor brands in my boxes and piles of brands. There's a lot of their colors that I use in every one of my real palettes. When I say real, it's like what I would pick to use, while I'm doing production artwork. For instance, their permanent red, which is PR 242. This is an amazing color. It is. It's a little. It's a little warmer than a quinacridone red. Um, Very light, fast. Uh, it's well, you can kind of see it here. These cameras don't really do justice to the colors of things. Uh, it granulates just a little bit. I really like that. At least the Lukas one does. I also have it in Sennelier and I think one other one. I can't remember the other brand. It's not an easy pigment to find. And it seems like European manufacturers are able to get it. I think maybe Schminke is one of the other ones. Um, but the PR 242, great color. These two are almost identical. This is a little more affordable, or it was. But yeah, it's a great color, and I don't know, probably a dozen tubes of this, so I don't ever plan on running out. So Lukas has some colors that are like that. I really they're unique. I like the properties. I liked the properties of Lukas. It became sort of I was leaning towards, I'm just going to use one brand of paint. I've since done away with that because there's no reason to you know, shackle myself that way. Um, but it continues to be one of the brands that has a heavy place. I probably got 4 or 5 brands that I use in my real watercolor palettes, and Lukas is definitely one of them. Da Vinci, just for quick reference, Da Vinci is another one. Daniel Smith, a little bit of M Gram, even though I have a lot of M Gram paints. Their stuff is great. Well, I'll wait till that review to go on about that. But Shinhan, the old Shinhan, not the new stuff, the new premium stuff. I'm not impressed. They've made some changes over the years. There used to be Shinhan SWC. There might still be. I know it was like a national, like in Korea, you could get SWC, and in America, it was the premium stuff or something like that. Uh, the old Shinhan stuff was fantastic. I've the new stuff is pretty good. I've found some that are okay. I don't like the new Ultramarine. It's ground too fine. It doesn't granulate hardly at all. The old Ultramarine Blue Deep from Shinhan was just amazing. It was a beautiful granulating blue, um, but can't get it anymore. So the tubes that I have, I'm tight fisted and hold on to. Uh, so yeah, Shinhan, Lukas, Da Vinci, Daniel Smith. Um, and honestly, that's quite I mean, I can get a lot done with those. It's probably overkill just having a lot of the paints that I do have. So, for Lukas, their earths are terrible. They have been terrible. I don't know what they're thinking. Um, let's looking at this is an older palette that I actually used Lukas earths in. All of my Lukas palettes, the 3 earths that I usually use, which is always going to be a raw sienna, burnt sienna, and either a raw or burnt umber. Uh, in my newer palettes, this is Shinhan and Da Vinci. Always, I've tried to use Lukas earth colors. They're god awful. They use multiple pigment mixes. They use blacks and a lot of PR 101. And I don't know how to understand it. I don't know that much about pigment manufacturing, uh, but it seems to me, PBR7 earth color, isn't that kind of? I mean, shouldn't that be cheap? That's like dirt. It's just a dirt. It's clay, or I don't know. It just seems like it would be easy to get a hold of. It doesn't have to be really manufactured. It just has to be this dirt. To just smash it and put it in some binder. At least that's what I think. So I do have some Lukas earths in this particular palette. Uh, I hate them. They the mixes are weird. They hit the paper and just sort of go thud. They're super opaque. Um, yeah, I gave up on their earth a long time ago. They got great yellows, reds, and blues, and a couple of good greens. Couple 3 good greens that they use. But yeah, for as far as earths, no, I can't do that anymore. Now, with that being said, I have recently started really liking their Caput Mortem Deep. This is one of the first colors I bought from Da Vinci. This is like 10 years ago when I first started getting into watercolors heavily. Um, I bought Caput Mortem Deep from Da Vinci, big tube of it, because I thought it sounded cool, and I was like, all right, well that's got to be useful. Oh, terrible! It was a terrible color. Um, it's like mud in a tube. Um, and I didn't know how to use it, and I ended up selling like half the tube off for I don't know $5 or something. It was a big 37 mil tube. It's just so much paint. Uh, yeah, I didn't know how to use it, so it was like purple dirt. It was just a weird color. Um, so yeah, I got rid of it. But on a whim, I don't know, 6 months ago, I bought a tube of it from Lukas. Even looking at the pigments and knowing that it's just a mix of PR 101, which is red oxide, yeah, red iron oxide, whatever you want to call it, um, and it's also PBK 11, which is magnetic black. And the reason I bought this is because of that magnetic black. Magnetic black is it's a black and it's magnetic. It's think of pieces like ground up pieces of a magnet thrown into a solution, and you know how magnets are, they repel each other and grab each other. It granulates just crazy. The Daniel Smith one is it's I don't even know why I don't think you can use it on its own. It's just it doesn't really make a black, it doesn't make a gray, it just makes speckled black fragments everywhere. Amazing granulation. I keep a tube of this around. Well, I keep cases of this around. This is Soho Urban Artists Mars Black, Magnetic Black. It's the PBK 11. This stuff is ground finely, and it doesn't like when you put it into a palette or into a well or a pan, it dries and just crumbles and falls apart. So I mix this in with my browns and things to give them some nice granulation. So I keep that around, and I figure, well, I will try this, and I really like it. I like that. I like the Lukas. Maybe I've improved as well. I have improved as a watercolorist. There's no doubt. Um, I don't know. Maybe I've learned to use this better. I don't use it a lot on its own, but I love mixing with it. It's a great color. Uh, I think it's probably going to become a staple in my earth, so at least as for my landscape palette. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm not. This is not scripted. I'm just kind of bouncing around. There's so much information in my head that I just, and it's kind of changed over the 10 years. When I first started wanting to do this, there were things I wanted to say about Lukas. Oh, it's amazing, but there's been some changes. So I want to cover those. And again, unscripted. I apologize for just bing bonging around. And again, I've had a cup of coffee, so. um, so Lukas paints. I love the tubes. The 24 mil tubes. They're great. It's chunky. It's not as chunky as the big 37 mils from Da Vinci, but it's the same lid. Well, okay, it's a little different lid. No, that's the same lid. Um, Same size. It's just they lost the last inch of the tube, which is fine with me. Uh, I mean, I love these big ones from Da Vinci as well. It's a great value, especially their earths. Like their raw sienna is, I've got, I don't know, 6 tubes of this stuff. I'll, it goes in every one of my palettes in multiple places. It is such a fantastic color. It's probably my favorite watercolor color. It's so versatile. Uh, but yeah, that's enough of that. The Da Vinci tube, same thing, just a little shorter. Uh, it's generally a really good value. Uh, yeah, I'll leave that as a statement. Just it is a good value. These are big tubes compared to little 15 mil tubes from other companies. Uh, it's nice and chunky. I like the big lid, uh, the big opening. It feels substantial. It's a good value. Uh, so yeah, love their tubes. I have dozens upon dozens, if not in the hundreds of tubes that I have purchased from these guys, thinking that, um, what if we can't get this color anymore? Like the PR 242, their Cobalt Turquoise is a great value. Um, and there again, I'll explain that later. I use that almost in every one of my palettes as well. Between that and the raw sienna, uh, always going to be in my palette. Don't know if I have one limbered up. I know I've got a bunch in boxes somewhere back here. There's nope, that's not it. They have what they call Gamboge, and it's PY 153, very light, fast. It's about the same kind of color as what you see PY 65, which is Indian yellow, or it's a very light, fast orange yellow. Uh, Beautiful color. very strong, and it's what they use in the paint for the highway lines, the yellow lines on the highway. It's that color. So the Gamboge is that same color. It's PY153, and it is wonderful because it's kind of weak and it granulates a little. It's not. It's not. It granulates like the sorry, the PR242 does. Uh, it's slight, but you notice it, and it's compared to like the Indian yellow. The Indian yellow is great for a smooth gradient, whereas the uh, the Gamboge or the PY153 is really cool with the way it granulates. It's easy for texturing things, yellow things at least. Um, you can thin it out. It's almost a lemon yellow. You can go on heavy, and it's almost an orange. Again, always going to be in my palette. So that, I mean, that's right there is three colors from Lukas that I can't see living without. Their green yellow, which is Ergazine yellow or PY129, very awesome color. It's behaves similar to like Nickel Azo yellow, PY150. It's just got a green tint to it. Now it looks really green in the palette, um, but it washes out to a cool yellow, um, greenish cool yellow. Uh, but it's it's affordable and cheap, and its big tubes are great. And I think the Mind of Watercolor guy did I might be misquoting that. He did a triad of three colors and used that PY129 as the yellow, and it worked out great. I mean, you can mix it with reds and get an orange. You can obviously mix it with blues and get really strong greens and a good variety of greens. Uh, so it's a great color. That um, I I love PY150, the Nicolazo yellow. I have tubes and tubes of it. My favorite is the Sennelier uh, Yellow Lake. Uh, but the Da Vinci, it's almost every brand is great. It is such a fun color. It it's like adding a little splash of sunshine wherever you put it on trees or grass. It's a really great landscaping yellow. Um, it it's great, and it's easy to make this color. If you've got that PY150 in your palette, a little bit of phthalo blue with it, well, any blue really, uh, can get you this green. If you've got Viridian in your palette, can really get you that green quickly. Um, so PY150 is my first choice of this type of color. But for a Lukas palette, they don't have PY150. If they did, it'd be fantastic, but they don't. Um, so yeah, that's one of their greens that I really like, and it can be used as a yellow. Their Cobalt Green, which is it's a real cobalt. It's PG50. Has a granule. It's a real clean green. It granulates. It's a little opaque. Um, I think I got the yeah. There's a can't really yeah. This web camera that I'm using for the overhead is not picking up colors very well. Um, it's a nice, I would call it a neutral green. Great for mixing. Also, what is their Verona Green Earth is the PG26, also a cobalt green. That's the little darker one here. I kind of mix those two in the well because I use them both. Also a great mixer. Granulating cobalt in a dark green. It's fun to use these to kind of emulate Daniel Smith's Green Appetite Genuine, which I use always in my main palettes. I have had so much trouble duplicating that, and I've never actually done it successfully without using like 6 pigments or something. And at that point, I'm just, I'm being a Magello Mission Gold enthusiast at that point. Um, so yeah, their greens, they do great with those greens. Their Viridian's pretty good. I like Da Vinci's Viridian better. Viridian better. It it granulates better, and it's easier to lift. But the Lukas Viridian is great. So, in a nutshell, about color choices. Oh, sorry, one more. There, two more. Their PY242, their Matter Lake Deep, is a great alizarin crimson. It's a little, it washes out a little darker and it's not quite as red. Uh, but again, for landscaping, it's a very versatile alizarin crimson. It's not as purpley or as pink as what your standard alizarin crimsons are. They do have an alizcrim from Lukas, and I think it's PY 176. It's real pink, and I'm not a fan of not PY 176, PR 176. I'm not a fan of that carmine pigment. I don't think it's very light fast. It's pretty light fast, and probably, you know, PR 83 being the standard traditional alizarin crimson, which is fugitive, is all get out. I'm sure that the PR 176, the carmine or benzie, whatever it is more light fast than that. But this is rock solid light fast. Great tones, great for landscaping, nice dark red. Um, that leans more towards an orange than a standard alizarin crimson. So I love that color in my palettes. Their magenta, their primary magenta is PR 122. I love this particular version. I have that in a lot of brands. Um, they're all pretty. I really like this one. It's a little darker, um, easy to wash out into other colors. Makes beautiful oranges. It's a real versatile. Well, it's primary, so it's real versatile red. It makes wonderful purples and violets. Uh, you can get good uh, good oranges out of it, and a really nice red if you mix it with some yellow or orange. So again, that one's kind of a staple uh, in my palettes. Not a super big fan of either their ultramarines, the deep or the light, or their cobalt, but just because it's granulation preferences. I like stuff to granulate a little more. Um, but their Indanthrone Blue, the PP60, I have tubes and tubes and tubes of this stuff. I love it. It is Daniel Smith has a good one as well. And there's maybe, gosh, the Anthraquinone, whatever the M gram one is nice too. It's very vibrant for an Indanthrone. Um, I like this because it tends to be a little more of a blue than a gray like the other ones. But it's affordable. It's like $9 or $10 for a tube, a 24 mil tube, and you look at the Indanthrone from these other companies, and they're like $15 or something, and for a 15 mil tube, so you get a lot more out of it. And I really like the way Lukas paints set up in the palette. Most Lukas paints, um, some of them like the Ergozine, the PY 129. I've had a lot of tubes of that stuff and it feels like it doesn't set up very well. It's kind of sticky, um, which is okay. And the ones that I have had it set up in, let me look at my little travel guy here. Yeah, still sticky. Um, it doesn't cure all the way. And when it sits around long enough, like this is, I don't know, this palette's like 10 years old. It gets this like an almost abrasive. I don't. It's dry, but it feels like sandpaper. So it's something weird going on in there. Their Naples Yellow is kind of weird too. It dries out. And it's real chalky feeling. Um, Great colors. They re-wet just fine. It's kind of a weird behavioral thing. Um, and I mean it eventually it cures up enough. I trust it in my travel palette to throw it in my pocket or something and not have it ooze out if it gets warm. Uh, so yeah, I mean a lot of great colors, and they crack a little. Like this is the Indanthrone here. You can see how it cracks. Wait, no, that's their permanent blue. Yeah, that's their Phthalo Blue. That's the Indanthrone. That's their Ultramarine. So they crack just a smidgen, but they're still kind of flexible, and they re-wet just amazing. Another thing that I love about Lukas paints is, and I don't know if it's their re-wetting agent that they put in it, you can really build it up in layers on your watercolor paper, and it doesn't pull a sheen like Da Vinci and what's the one from Cheap Joe's American Journey, which is made by Da Vinci. Um, well, you see how it is in the palette. It's got a shine to it. It's hard, but it's shiny. Um, if you put too much of that on, like an almost impasto style, it leaves a sheen. Um, a shiny shell across your watercolor. Lukas paints don't do that. It's one of the big things I love about them. A lot of people say they're chalky. I found them to be pretty clean. Uh, yeah, they're kind of chalky in the chalky feeling in the wells, but most of the colors have been for me pretty clean, aside from the earths. Now the earths are just, yeah, chalky is about the best thing you can call them. They're just, ugh, horrible. Their cadmiums are fairly strong for the price. Uh, I use their cadmium. Another one, unstable in my palettes is their, I don't know where it's at. I got tubes and tubes of that. Their cadmium yellow lemon. Um, this is this is like their series one. It's not expensive. It's like the same price as their other standard regular paints. It's not a cadmium price paint, um, but it's nice. It's super opaque. Great for doing little highlights at the end on florals and especially landscapes and things. Um, yeah, it's nice to have a cadmium with a real almost green tint to it. Um, so that's another staple in my palettes. As I'm talking about this, I'm surprised actually how many I have, how many Lukas paints that I have that I would choose over Daniel Smith or Da Vinci or definitely Schminke. I don't like the Block X and what's the Old Holland. I think that those are probably just really expensive here in America because they're not from here. I hope because they're. I mean, I don't see the value in them. Um, Golden core. Uh, there's not any of those colors really. I don't think that I would choose over Lukas. I've got a bunch. That's one of my reviews to do. I got a bunch of those, and for the price, they're so expensive. I'm really disappointed in Golden. I think they missed the boat. For as much as I love their acrylics and their mediums and their products, they're just fantastic. The marketing hype, I think, is what soured me on this Golden Core stuff. Um, their watercolor. It's an exclusive binder or whatever they were saying about it. It's a polymer binder that's rewettable, and they don't look any better than any other watercolors. The tubes are only 11 mil, and they're expensive as all get out. I just, yeah, Golden Core was coming for another review. Um, so yeah, I'm surprised at how many Lukas paints that I stand by over the other brands, and then you get to the Earths, and I'm just like, terrible. So carrying on, unscripted. About I think it was 2013. Um, I don't know if Lukas, because I mean, there I was buying their tubes for $3, $4, $5 there for a while, for quite a while, and I couldn't figure out why they were so cheap because they're fantastic paint. There's not a lot of filler in them. I don't see a lot of opacity in the paints that you would expect to be transparent. Um, they set up well. I love the consistency of them. Uh, they're like a, I don't want to squeeze it out. It's like a firm yogurt. You see how it comes out, and as you can see it just comes out as like a stick, uh, and you can just cut it off with a toothpick or something, and stick it in your well. Um, oh, I really hope that goes back in. Oh, come on, baby, you can do it. Nope. All right, cool. So I'll find a palette to put that in. Unscripted. Oh, cool. And I made a mess of myself. This day just keeps giving. All right, we're going to really thought I was going to be able to suck that back in there. Clearly I was mistaken. All right, I got all these big. This is turquoise too. I don't think I have this in. I just purchased this recently. This is PB16, which is I think it's a phthalo, um, and beautiful color. It's really pretty, and it looks like that might be. I might have put some of that in there. Let me find some water here and see what that is. Ah, turquoise. All right, great. I'm just gonna smush that on there. I hate wasting paint. That was maybe 7 cents worth of paint or something, and I'm just I'll spend a half an hour figuring out how to try to save it. I'm just a cheapskate at heart. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm afraid to close that. I think I can probably get away with closing it. Yeah, we'll see. I may be mixing some paints there. Okay, so I know that I'm not going to be using this palette for the review. I might splash a couple of the earths out there just to kind of show you how terrible they are. Um, yeah, this is. I have all these. I won't use this one. I love it. It's a great pocket palette. But I don't need it. I'll use this for the review. I've got quite a few colors in there. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna put this one away. Actually, I'm just gonna set it off to the side without closing it, just so that turquoise can set up a little bit. Yeah. All right. So tangent from hell. Back in 2013, Lukas was they were in trouble, and I think maybe it was because they didn't charge enough for what you got from them. I can't imagine that these big fat, well, these chubby little tubes um, are cheap to manufacture to the point where I can get one for $7 for a tube consistently. I know Jerry's is the only person that's supposed to market them in the United States. Jerry's Artorama. That's where I've purchased all of my bazillion tubes from. Their prices have always been real affordable, and maybe that's why Lukas had, I don't know if they went out of business or what the deal is, but Lukas was sold to Daler Rowney. Excuse me. That to me is that's so disappointing. I mean, and when we're talking about their gouache, their acrylics, their oils, everything now, and it's taken a while for it to kind of propagate, get the old stock out and the new stock in. But now everything that's new comes in and it says on the tubes, good Lord, come on, focus, you can do it. You're not doing it. Cool. Okay. Well, on that tube that is not focusing, maybe it'll do it up on this one. Ah, there we go. Made in England for Lukas Nurchow, whatever that is. Um, all the newest stuff says that on it. And you can generally tell which ones they are because for some reason in the sticker factory or the sticker portion of the factory, they can't seem to get their sticker flaps to stick down. So yeah, all of that Daler Rowney stuff is, wow, that one's just, I mean, the stickers. You can look and see which ones are new and which are old. Now, I've got a bunch of old stuff and I've got a bunch of new stuff, and I didn't know what was happening during all of this. I sold off a lot of my Lukas tubes thinking, hey, I bought these on, I would buy three instead of one just because they come in a box of three. You buy one, it's flopping around in the box and it'll get punctured or something on in shipping. So I would just buy three, and then I would sell one or two of them off if I didn't want to keep them. So here's one of the older ones. This is what Lukas used to say, and Lukas tubes. This has the guy's name on it, and I can't remember whether it's Franklin. It's Dr. Franklin something or Schoenfeld. I don't remember the Lukas guy's original name, but it gives the address of Dusseldorf, Germany. This is, in my opinion, the real Lukas. Daler Rowney bought him, and I tell you what, I don't know if you've ever seen Tommy Boy, but it's like the Ray Zielinski auto buys Callahan auto for the name, and they put their own crap in the box. Uh, when I first I was into watercolors for a couple of years, and I was buying different brands and testing things. I bought three tubes of Daler Rowney watercolor paint. Um, three just red, blue, yellow primaries, and opened two of them, and it's just this soupy crap, all separated, pouring out, sticky, stretchy garbage. I hated it. Um, I returned them. It's just I tried painting with them. The colors weren't bad, but it's just puddles of goo on every palette I tried to put them in, and they would harden eventually. But yeah, turned me off to Daler Rowney immediately. I won't. I don't even have a palette. I'm not gonna review them. I don't even want to buy enough of them to do a palette to review and then sell it to recoup the money. So yeah, not a big fan of Daler Rowney. And of course, that's who buys Lukas, one of my favorite watercolor brands. And I actually have a lot of Lukas acrylics and oils, and I like those as well. I really like their oil paints. All made in England now by Daler Rowney. So as these tubes started trickling in, I started noticing that they say made in England and as a German company. I like, it seems like Lukas had access to the same pigments that Schminke did. So I could buy colors that were very similar to Schminke colors at about a quarter of the cost. And I like them better. I don't like Schminke. I think there's a lot of, okay, I like them. I think there's a lot of hype involved in them. They use a lot of fugitive colors. I think I spent $200 when I first started painting on one of their set of 24 full pan metal tins, um, and painted with it for a while. And I didn't, at that point, I was just starting, and I love it. I got professional watercolor paint. As I learned more about pigments, I was amazed to see how many fugitive pigments and kind of garbage cheap pigments they use in that set. They're indigo. It's just, yeah. So I learned about pigments, and I ended up selling that Schminke palette with prejudice. I couldn't believe, I felt ripped off, because for that price I could have bought enough Lukas paint to fill 10 of those palettes. Um, or Da Vinci. Da Vinci is also a very great value and it's excellent paint. So yeah, I felt yeah, I don't like Schminke just because they're expensive, for no reason. Winsor and Newton, I don't think the paint's that great. They say in their own marketing about their formulation, our formulation is not made to be used. Let it dry in the palette and used again. You should just throw it away. And I'm like, what? Your formula is so crappy that you think we should just throw it away instead of using the dried stuff? Well, there's plenty of other brands out there that know how to make paint. All right, there goes the coffee rant. So, um, I don't like Daler Rowney paint. The inconsistent, soupy mess that I got in two of the tubes of the three that I bought turned me off. And lo and behold, as these started trickling in, like I started saying like 5 minutes ago, uh, and I started seeing the made in England for Lukas, I started noticing, I'm going to get the stuff out of the way, things like, get some paper out here, like this. Now, this is in Danthron Blue. Let's see if I can find an old one here. Where's one of the old ones? Open it up. Beautiful, just stiff yogurt. I don't want to squeeze it out and end up with the same problem as with the turquoise, but beautiful consistency. The tube is full. There's no air bubbles in it. It's hefty. It feels like great value. This mess, is the made in England one. Has Daler Rowneyitis. Every time I open it, I get that stretchy garbage. It just pours out of the tube. It makes a mess on me, on my palettes. It's just a puddle of goo. I can't put it on a flat because it just spreads and spreads and becomes this really thin layer of goo and takes forever to cure. And when it cures, then I have to like peel it up and fold it together to get it to stay in the spot where it's supposed to be. I don't know if Daler Rowney's just using their own crap and putting it in these Lukas tubes like a Zielinski auto shiftiness, or if they're screwing up the Lukas formula in their own factory. Whatever's happening, it's disappointing. It's unbelievably disappointing. Uh, this is their Cobalt Violet. This is not cheap. Um, again, no sticker sticks. It, I don't know if you can see how soupy it is. It's just, there's binder falling out of it, pouring out of it like a brown liquid. I can just hold it open and it just pours and drips. You see the drip form in there? You know what? I'm just going to put it on there because gross. And now it's stretchy too. So, Daler-Rowney Artis. Not a cheap tube of paint. Uh, Here's I don't remember why I bought this. This is just a convenience mix, and it's not that convenient because it's not a color I would normally mix. It's Vinci Yellow and Phthalo Green. It's kind of a silly mix. That's really easy to mix on your own. Um, so, oh, I gotta move some stuff to get to my water container. Too many things going here. All right, first, I'm gonna spread this out, and you saw that. I mean, that's a decent pile of paint on that piece of paper there, and it's so weakly pigmented. This is what I got out of that blob. Now, if that had been M-gram, I could have colored 3 pieces of paper with that, and this is just already washing out. Now, granted, Cobalt Violet is not a strong staining color, but I expect a little more efficiency than that. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's a Daler-Rowney issue or Lukas or what. I did have some trouble with one of their earlier Cobalt Violet tubes as well. But this is May Green. Is that May Green? Yeah, May Green. Vinci Yellow and Phthalo Green. There is no excuse for me to be able to tip this tube over and pour out whatever that was. Soupy, soupy mess. And again, made in England for... Oh, good, it's on my finger now. Thank you, Daler-Rowney. Appreciate that. So, now it's just spilling out all over the threads. So this is what's happening with Lukas. That Daler-Rowney has basically done what Sanford did to Prismacolor, which is just buy the brand and destroy it. Prismacolor colored pencils used to be, I mean, that was the cream of the crop. And now you couldn't pay me to use them. They moved the factory to Mexico. They just made terrible business decisions. And yeah, they destroyed that brand. To this day, I don't think their reputation is recovered. You see, that's nothing. There's not even pigment in there. That's just a slimy pile of goo. Um, so every one of these, every other one of these tubes that are made in England, well, even that, the cobalt turquoise is a little slippery. It's garbage. It's inconsistent. It's the Daler-Rowney problem. The reason that I 10-foot poled that company a long time ago. So it's super disappointing about Lukas. Uh, Used to be a great paint brand, but they also changed. I was noticing they changed their cobalt. That's the old one. Their cobalt turquoise, which I use a lot. Um, Daler-Rowney is now using PB28, which is I believe a cobalt blue, and Lukas used to use PG50, which is a cobalt green, for this particular color. They're both cobalt turquoise, and they look pretty similar. I don't know if it's a cost issue or a supply issue or why they would do it. So there's the new one. And here's the old one. You see how thick it's a stiff paint, and it's just wonderful to work with. Um, and it re-wets so beautifully after it's cured. Oh wow, that is darker. So yeah, that's going to be another one that I'm going to have to tight fist all the existing old tubes that I have and find another brand after those run out, because that's clearly different. It's granulating better. It's cleaner looking. This has just gone. There's no granulation happening there. So yeah, disappointing. Because I at one point I think I bought 6 tubes of this, and they're all the new one. So I'm sure some people will like that better. I like the granulation of the old one. I like the color of the old one better. It's a little darker. It's more of a green. Um, it's a darker color, but it granulates nicely. So sorry, I don't want to bash Lukas, and I understand that companies go through issues. I'm just disappointed that their brand has gone through what is obviously a buyout. They, you know, De La Rowney bought the brand name and are slowly pulling cherries out of the pie and running it into the ground. Um, I know a lot. Wow, that I'm telling you what, this Indanthrone Blue stickiness it's everywhere. Never with the old Lukas formulas would you see this. That sticky, stretchy De La Rowney mess. So yeah, clearly I'm a little bitter about these issues here. Uh, what can you do? There's not there's not a lot you can do. So moving forward, in the past, a lot of people have had great reviews for Lukas watercolor paints. I did as well. Uh, not anymore. Um, I probably won't be. I'm stocked up pretty well on the permanent red, and a couple of these tubes I have noticed they're a little more slippery. This one, actually, this one's got some. It's just gooey around the edges, but it still behaves pretty well. But I'll probably stop buying this too. I don't think I'm going to be buying any more Lukas 1862 watercolors unless De La Rowney makes some drastic changes to re rebuild what this paint used to be. So, all right. God, I love their permanent orange too. Their pyrrole orange or pyrrole orange. It's a little more yellow than most other brands. A lot of brands, it's a real red color, whereas these guys, at least in the old ones, it's got a beautiful yellow undertone to it. It's gorgeous, and it's not terribly strong, which the Purals are. They tend to be just ridiculous in mixes. They overpower stuff. Whereas this one, this is just I really like it a lot. Um, so I bought a bunch of that too. At least I've got a bunch of the old ones of this, with this orange, and it takes a while to use them up. So I'm going to clear this out of here. Um, I got the mortem there. I can show you that. I got the cobalt green over there. All right, so let's get back to doing the actual review for. I don't think I have any other colors here that I need to show you. Oh, wait. They have a. They used to have. I'm not sure what the new one is now. I haven't purchased it in a while. Their genuine rose is a PV19, but it's a real pink, almost a coral pink. And again, I'm not a floral painter, but this would be a permanent installation in my palette if I was. That is such a beautiful color of pink. It's not, it doesn't lean to like a purple pink. It's it's more of a coral color. Coral color. It's just a beautiful paint. Um, I don't have a lot of use for it. It's PV19, quinacridone violet, but it's not. And they have a purple. I've got some in here somewhere. Lukas has a purple, which is also PV19, and that's their quinacridone violet. There, and it's as you would expect. It behaves as it should. I don't think I have anything else in there that's. Yeah, there's the purple down at the bottom. Oh, their cadmiums are great. I use their cadmiums a lot. Well, they're light cadmium red light and lemon yellow. I'm just gonna put this out of the way. So now let's have a look at how it cures. That Cobalt Violet. I put it in here. I put it in the other palette too. Um, and see how it just hit the palette and just spread out like an oozing blob. Same deal here. I don't know if you can see the sheen on it. I mean, it's just way too much binder. It looks exactly like a De La Rowney paint. Um, yeah, just useless. Expensive too, you know. It's not it's not worth my time to contact Jerry's and demand a refund. They just lose the customer at that point. I'm so disgusted by what De La Rowney is doing to this brand. I'm not gonna spend any more time patronizing them and buying. But oh yeah, you can see in here too. You see I put that Cobalt Violet there, and it's still sticky. Um, it's nice to mix. It's a nice color for background mountains and landscapes and things, and it works really well with the Ultramarine blue to come up with some nice. It's almost gray, uh, and the Ultramarine granulates a little bit. That the Lukas Ultramarine is not wonderful as far as granulating, but it does. I mean, it does the job. So, all right, let's try to get some cohesion here and do a little review of the colors I do like and what I do like about them. Um, Cotton paper. This is Langton Press. Surprisingly, this is De La Rowney Langton Prestige cold press. Or no, this is rough. Uh, it's about the same, really. The paper, I like their paper. I did notice I bought a bunch of their Langton Prestige cold press. I don't know, about 10 years ago. I think I bought a couple hundred sheets of it. Um, it was a real good deal. You buy one get one free or something like that, or buy four get four free. I don't remember what it was, but they were like half price. So I bought a bunch of them, and I have used now a few of the full sheets, and I have noticed when I do full big washes across large portions, the sizing is just splotchy as hell. It's kind of the same problem that Arshes went through um, years ago when I happened to be buying Arsh. There was a known issue with their sizing, and I think that's about when Canson bought them out or something. There was some problems at the mill. Langton Prestige has that same kind of problem on small pieces like this. It's great. I love it's a soft paper, but it's really tough. Um, it doesn't, like with Arch, when you do that, it sounds like an aluminum sheet shaking. It's real stiff, and I love the sizing. But if it's blotchy and you can't do washes without having it soak in one spot and sit on the top and the other, it's next to useless in large sizes. So yeah, Gala Rowney paper. I bought a bunch of it. I do like it, but can't be used as full sheet painting because of the sizing issues. So yeah, another Gala Rowney. They're like the Sanford of England. They just they're too big for their own good. All right. Now, um, they're PY3. They're lemon yellow. Uh, it used to be like Helio, to some crazy name they had for it. PY3. Uh, Beautiful yellow color, lemon yellow. And this is the one that I had kind of chosen as what I would use for that color, what brand I would buy, and I'm gonna have to find somebody else now because, you know, the problems. So it's still a beautiful color, very transparent. It mixes really well. Uh, like I say, their Gamboge is or was the PY153 is a kind of a difficult color to find. Um, Beautiful color. Leans more towards orange. It it granulates in really cool ways. It's really easy to get texture with it. Great color. Um, a little more expensive. I think that's their Series 2 or something. It's more expensive than the Indian Yellow or the PY65. But the PY153 is just, it's a wonderful color. Um, Crap, I don't remember what color this is. Oh, good thing I made this. Oh, this is their Permanent Yellow Deep. This is their PO62. Also a good light fast orange. Uh, to be honest, I don't know why I put this in here instead of the Purell orange. Maybe I just had a tube that I wanted to use up. Who knows? It's a good orange. I don't like it as well as the Purell orange. This to me is more versatile. It's a little more transparent feeling. But yeah, I'll use that up and be happy about it. Yeah, it thins out nicely. It washes out. This is one of their big ones for me. Their PR 242. This wonderful red that I love so much. All right. Yes, this is their permanent red. It went on there looking like a Puro for a second. The cool thing about this, when you wash it out, it actually gets like a blue tone in the washed out area. Um, Kind of like a quinacridone red will do. It'll get like a violet sort of a look to it. Changes color a little. I just love it. I think it's a great red. Um, I use it a lot. This is their PR 240 or sorry PR 264. Their what is that Pure Rubine? I don't remember that. It's their Madder Lake Deep. They're dark red. It's borderline alizarin crimson. Not quite as violet as alizarin crimson is, but again a very nice dark red. And yes, you can get it by mixing this color with other colors, but this is just I use that enough, and excuse me, they mix together really well too. You get a nice blend between those two reds. And if you need to, you can. This is their their PR 122, their Quinn Magenta. You can mix that with the PR 264. Sorry, I've been having allergy issues. The wind blows in Texas, and on any given day, it comes from one direction or the other, and it brings all the pollens and everything with it. And this is springtime, so it's it's been sneezy and gross for a few days here. But you can see the beautiful color between the magenta and the Madder Lake Deep there. It's just gorgeous. Now their ultramarine, it's serviceable. It's a little weak, so you really got to go after it to get a nice deep color out, a deep value out of it. But it eventually gets there. Granulation's a little meh. Mixing the magenta with this makes a beautiful violet. Several beautiful violets. I don't know why anybody would ever use PV23. Excuse me, the dioxazine purple, when you have the ability to do that right there with these two great colors that should be a staple in, a lot of palettes, I think. They're PB60, they're Indanthrone blue, great dark blue. It shifts a little as it dries, it gets lighter, and it acts a little funky in some mixes. It tends to kind of gray out, depending on, like I've noticed when I mix it with like uh, do I have it in? I think I do. Yeah, the quinacridone burnt orange, PO48, which is what you see a lot of the, fake quinacridone golds made with, that and PY150. You mix the two of these together, and when it's wet, it's a vibrant black, or a nice gray, dark gray. But when it dries, they dry together. The indanthrone it does something weird. It goes kind of gray or silver, and which is cool. That's not a bad deal. And I don't know if it's something to do with the organic mixing organics with inorganics or what, but I've noticed it kind of across the board in most brands that the PB60 will do that when mixed with other certain colors. Um, Not sure why. It's just something that I learned to work with, and you get used to it, and then you can start learning to depend on it doing that for that effect when you want it. Now their phthalo blue, their permanent blue, is it leans toward a. It's not as vibrant as a lot of brands are. It kind of gets dark, which again I love, and I love the liftability of Lukas's paints too. Even though this is a phthalo and it stains, it lifts pretty good, and it's not overpowering in washes. Sorry, mixes. Did I use the turquoise in here? Oh, I did. Okay, so this is their PB16. This is kind of a new one to my palette. I really like it. It almost reminds me of a transparent cobalt teal. Like if I want to go really light with it, I can get sort of the same color as I get with the cobalt teal without the granulation. It's super transparent, whereas the cobalt teal is got a good bit of opacity to it. It granulates and it's more opaque, I guess is the way to say that. But I put this in my palette because I had the tube and I got 18 slots to fill up in this palette, and um, I figure it would be nice to try it. And it is a beautiful color. It mixes with reds real well to make a nice black, very strong black. Crap, I just mixed those colors. I covered up my cobalt turquoise with more regular turquoise, but you get the gist. So here's now I'm back to cobalt turquoise. Mixing the two goes together. You can darken your cobalt turquoise real nice, and still get the granulation. So having those two as a landscape artist, that's a staple sky color for me. Even washed out, and then you can throw some raw sienna in there with it, and it doesn't go yellow, um, because the raw sienna is an earth color. It's PBR7. It's not PY42 or something like a yellow ochre. So you can still, it's like mixing orange and blue together. They neutralize rather than tint to a green. So yeah, for landscaping, this whole section right here is I use a ton of it. Now, their cobalt green, this has a little bit of contamination with the Verona green earth, so it's going to be a little darker, but you get the idea. It's a nice medium, this is what I would call a Kelly green. Um, and it granulates really cool, mixes cool. Like I'll pull some of this indanthrone in here. Gives you a nice dark shadow green. Um, you can play with it and get. I used to use, oh, what's the black? PBK 31, the Paleogen Black, which is like the shadow green. I think is what Holbein calls theirs, or Chinon does. It's that real dark green black. I used to use that a lot in my palettes. Uh, I found using a lighter green and toning it down, mixing it with neutralizing it into a black, you get that same shade, but you got the versatility to be able to add something like this and get just a wonderful bright green that has some granulation to it. That was PY3 that I just added there, lemon yellow. Now the Verona green earth, the PG26, also a cobalt, very dark, almost blue, but it's muted. It's definitely it's like an earth. It's an earthy green, um, but it's more transparent than I had bought. What's the horrible the chromium oxide green? That was one of the first tubes of stuff I bought too, thinking it would be like an olive green, and boy, that was a useless mixing. It just it's the mud maker. Terrible color. At least the Vinci one that I had. This more transparent, granulates nicely, plays really well with the PG50, the cobalt green. You can get all kinds of just interesting green colors with that. And then, see, I dropped the PY3 in there. Let me put in some. I'll put in some of this PY129 in there, the ergazine yellow or green or whatever it is. And you see how beautiful that is for mixing real bright greens, and but it'll go all the way down to muted as well. Um, so yeah, that's a great color. I've run out of space here, but I could do the same, that kind of a same effect with the PY150, the Nicolazo yellow, mixing that in there. Nice transparent yellow mixed with those greens and just makes beautiful, beautiful landscape greens. And they granulate. So yeah, the Verona Green Earth, there again, the PG26. I'm gonna have to find another brand to get that from because I don't feel great about continuing to buy Lukas paints from De La Rowney based on the performance that I've seen over the last couple of years as they've been trickling into my stash. So again, this is Da Vinci Raw Sienna PBR7. The Lukas PBR7 is just so bad. Let me go back to my other paper here. I think it's dry enough now. I can flip it over. All right. So I have these in here because I just like these colors. I'm using the quinacridone burnt orange. This is also Da Vinci. I also use Daniel Smith's version of this, the PO48. I'm substituting that in for where I would normally put like a burnt sienna. Um, and obviously this is the raw sienna. Those play really well together to get a good variance of earth colors. And did I put the? I've recently, yeah, I did. I used this is Da Vinci Raw Umber. I've recently switched over from burnt umber for a darker brown to raw umber. I think you get more versatility. The raw umber is typically more of a green shade of a brown, which is it's nice to have in certain situations. It's hard to get the burnt umber to go to the green side without neutralizing it a lot into it almost becomes like a sepia color. Um, but if I need to, I can add some of the burnt the quinacridone burnt orange and get a burnt umber out of it. So I've started using this, and again, a tube of Da Vinci Earth is like $11.70 for 37 mils. So that's a that takes me a couple years to go through one of those. So that's kind of a no-brainer, especially with the issues that I have with Lukas's Earth. Even back in the day when it was made in Germany, it was just so. Now, with that being said, let's look at the this Caput Mortem. It's Caput. Um, this is the PR 101 with the PBK 11, and I'm try to get it. I'll try to pull it out to where you can see how aggressive this granulation of this magnetic black is, and it kind of comes out from under that iron oxide red, and it's got a really cool color. I mean, it's like a real deep maroon. I'm gonna let that dry and granulate so you can see it, but then I'll move on to a different patch here. And this stuff, again, this is Lukas. It lifts really well. Look how fast I was able to get that out of there. Now, this color is a lot of fun mixing with so many other colors. We'll go with raw sienna over here. The granulation that you get from this, it's like adding. It's just it's the it mixes with the raw sienna and gives it a really dark granulation. It reminds me of a Daniel Smith Primatech. Primatech. I don't know how you pronounce it, but a cheap tube of paint, even with prices being raised by the De La Rowney standards, that's a cheap earth, and it's super versatile, at least for a landscape artist. Doing stonework, brickwork, things like that. It's such a nice dark, and you can see how it's granulating with the raw sienna. Um, mix in the quinacridone orange, another great color. Just fantastic. Um, Granulates in a really cool way. Um, and this, I mean, there again, this could be with the Da Vinci Caput Mortem. I might do the same thing. I didn't know what I was getting into back then. Um, so that could be the same, but I'm real happy with this. And then, I mean, I think it's going to be probably cheaper per mil with the Da Vinci stuff, but this is what I know. I like the way it dries in the palette. I love the way it re-wets. The Da Vinci stuff it doesn't re-wet quite as well. And if you build it up, it has that sheen because I don't know if it's too much binder or the type of binder. It's just like there's too much gum arabic in it or something. So that's the raw umber, Da Vinci Raw Umber. And bringing that Caput Mortem into it adds just enough red. You can actually get away with this as like almost a burnt umber as well. It doesn't have quite the orange that a burnt umber would have, but it neutralizes the green and takes it back to a red brown. Again, great color. You can see the granulation happening, the purples and oranges that are mixing together through here. I just love this color. And it's weird because this isn't, I never thought I would buy that again because it was just a muddy mess when I first started using it. But you see how it's granulating across the page there in the different mixes. Now, mixing this with a yellow, an orangey yellow, yields a really cool kind of a burnt sienna. This is the PY153 again. This is their Lukas's Gamboge, they call it. It's a little weak. Trying to get it to pull. So using that as a that's almost more of a, maybe I'm thinking the PY150. That's almost more of a yellow ochre, a granulating, heavily granulating yellow ochre, which I kind of like that. I might use that in my next landscape for a distant yellow ochre. You do that out in the distance, at a pale hayfield or something, and then up close, I don't have yellow ochre. I got Naples Yellow. This is also Lukas Naples Yellow. Up close, you do a little more saturation, a little higher chroma, and you get a good perception of atmospheric depth there. Raw Sienna in there too. So again, it's a real versatile color, and I did not think it would be. This is my mix of paint gray. I just mixed the PB29, and which black did I mix with that? Oh, I didn't. I mixed the raw umber with that. Raw umber, burnt umber. Yeah, raw umber. And I don't really like how it came out too gray. I like my Payne's grays to be a little more blue, but that's just the ratio that I mixed in there. With my palettes, I almost always have my ultramarine blue on this side and my whatever brown I have on this side, and then I mix the two of those together for my Payne's gray. Here I've got that might be in Danthrin, I think. I don't remember which. No, that's ultramarine. So I got a blob of ultramarine there and a blob of raw umber here. So I can sort of custom mix like at that point I would call this more of an indigo. Oh, maybe not. A little more ultramarine, and I've got an indigo there. A little more raw umber, and I've got a Payne's. So this is just kind of a premix of those, and it got away from me. I got too much raw umber in there. It needs a little more um, ultramarine, but I can work with it. I can mix the ultramarine in with it, and it'll be fine. So we've gone through that. One thing that we didn't discuss is their Chinese white. Um, I use Shinhan, and I use white in my watercolor palette. I just, it's there. We have it. It's good enough for John Singer Sargent and Turner and whoever else. Um, it has its uses. I do cheat, especially when I'm working on ACOs or something really small. It's really hard to leave the white of the paper. And as far as masking fluid goes, any traditionalist that complains about people using white watercolor and then starts slopping a bunch of plastic rubber all over their paper is a little silly. I think it's just as non-traditional to use masking fluid as it is to use white, if that's what you're going to complain about as a watercolor snob. Uh, it's there. I use it. Uh, but I think that we get a little too, and I'm guilty of this as well, a little too caught up in tradition. Even with digital art, I don't like digital art. I think there's no soul to it. It's got no heart. But if Da Vinci was here, if Michelangelo were here, they would be all up in the computer doing amazing stuff digitally. Um, they would be using the real tools. I like the activity of painting traditionally. To me, this is relaxing. I like doing things with my hands. I like the connection that I feel. Um, just the behavior, the flow of the water, the unpredictability. When I accidentally, drop a water drop across a fresh wash, crap, and then I see it do something cool. I'm like, "Hey, I can make that into a tree limb." Or there's just I love that about this, and you do not get that digitally because with this right here, there's no control Z, there's no undo. You do something stupid or or inventive, you just learn to live with it. You learn to work with it. You let the watercolor tell you what it wants to do. Um, Digital art, you don't get that. You've got too much control, which again is great for some people. And I'm sure in the industry, like if this was my job, I would want any tool I can get to uh, to speed things up. Like I use projectors, I use light tables, anything to speed up production because I am confident that if I had to freehand something, I could sit there and do it. It would take me for bloody ever. I could use the grid system. I can do all the traditional things if I really wanted to. And I still do that sometimes because it's not worth setting up a projector or a light table or something for something as simple as painting a chicken or a car. There's not a whole lot that I would need to trace for. Um, Nothing wrong with that. That's art. I have a friend of mine who is an art professor. Um, he art is art. You can't look at people and judge them for their. Oh, that guy uses what are those little glasses that you look through and it's centuries old, basically a tracing tool or old projector. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just a lens you look through and it projects through your eye onto the paper. Like I'm looking over there and I can see it projected down here, and it's a tool. Um, Use your tools as an artist to express yourself. You don't. I'm not. My goal isn't to be the best functionality guy. I want to express myself through art, whatever means you need to use to do that. Great. Um, and if digital is your thing, that's cool. This for me is a it's a stress reliever. It's I can splash. I mean, I do this crap all day, and I'll do it on both sides. And I'm just if I can't if I don't want the stress of trying to paint something perfect, I just start splashing squares. I call it squarepy. Um, it's relaxing to me, and I my blood pressure comes down, and I get the flow, and I just paint squares. I've done big pieces of squares, full size sheets, and just squares and squares, and trying to freehand make them perfect and splashing different colors and mixing. It's great fun. Pardon me. Um, so yeah, okay, off the soapbox again. A couple more colors I have in here uh, that I really like. This is Naples Yellow, shit, reddish or something. I don't remember what they call it. It's their red version of Naples Yellow, and it's got an orange or it might be Benzie Carmine or something like PR 176. I think they've got that mixed with the PBR 24, and their Naples Yellow. I don't know why they don't just leave the PBR 24 alone. They've mixed this with a yellow. So it's PBR 24, but it's also got a yellow added to it. So it's a little more yellow than what you would see a lot of Naples yellows be. It's an opaque yellow that I'm playing with in this palette as a yellow ochre substitute. I love yellow ochre. I just have been playing with the Naples yellow just because I got the tube and it's sitting there doing nothing. The Naples Yellow reddish I bought just to see what it was like, and it's cool. An excellent portrait color. Again, you can see there it's definitely opaque. So those are fun to play with. Again, this is just one of those Jerry Q uh, 18 well palettes. I think they're $11.99 on Amazon, and they come with a set of pans and colors in the pans and a water brush and a little ceramic doohickey. I've taken all the color cakes out of this and added them to my actual Jerry Q watercolor palette that I'm using for a review. And I took all the pans out from under it, and then I crammed two of each color into the wells just because they fit. Um, and so that palette can last me forever. But yeah, you get a lot of stuff with this for 12 bucks. I like these. I like the Magello, the sealed ones, like the bigger palette that I had out here earlier, the airtight one. But for a travel palette, this is a nice balance between the little guys, um, the little metal one with the fold outs that you see all over the place, and this is the Cotman uh, watercolor 12 set that I pull the Cotman colors out of and sell them on eBay or whatever uh, for the price of the palette. And then I get a free palette for my little pocket stuff. So I've got a ton of those. Um, and these too, you can sell the inserts out of them for refills for somebody. Sell them for $5, and somebody will be happy to get them that does like the Jerry Q watercolors. They're not terrible watercolors, but I like these because I know what the pigments are, I know what the brands are, um, and you pull that pan out of these little wells, and you get a lot more space in there to fill up with paint. So yeah, super happy about this palette. The purple. You see how that milked over? I don't know if you can see it or not. See how it got milky? This is that Cobalt Violet, and when you first wet it, it gets this weird milky film over it, and I don't know what that is about. Uh, it's a nice color. It's real subdued color. I'll use it. I won't buy it again. Um, I think I've got a tube of Da Vinci Ultramarine Violet, which is real close to that, and it's big. It's fairly cheap and lasts forever, and it's a much stronger pigment. This is such a weak pigment in there, and it doesn't do weird milky thing when I get it wet. Sweet, more paint on me. So yeah, and this is, I mean, these are. Let me explain about my palettes. I kind of do variations of this. There's always a yellow. Um, this is where the paintbrushes and stuff were in this thing. I just use it for a mixing, like a little tiny butcher tray. This is, I believe, the PY 129. Yeah, and I got some ultramarine in there. It's just different greens. This is that soupy May green. I put it in there just to see what it was like, and it's like soup. Um, but it mixes with the other greens. I've got, I think I got, yeah, that's raw umber there to darken or olive out some greens. I leave a little when I'm putting the paint in the wells. I swish it up with a toothpick to kind of get it to lay flat in there, and then I'll pull some over the edge. So when I'm mixing a green, if I no, that's way too green. If I want to add a little red to it, there's a dog hair in there. I can add some red, get it in the mix there, and now I've got a real fast olive green if I need it. Like I say, I always have white. Um, this is Shinhan. They call it Chinese white, but it's titanium white. It's a real nice opaque white that lifts really well, but it cures in the palettes really well too. Um, what else do I always have? No, cadmium yellow light, or sorry, cadmium red light. Uh, this is a nice opaque red that I use it sparingly. A lot of times I use it, for my signature over the top of something if it goes dark like that. I really don't use it as a red so much unless I've screwed up something and I need to cover because it's so close to the same to the PR242. PR242 is just ultra transparent compared to it. So and it does make a really nice glaze too. So and then always cadmium lemon yellow um, for the same reason. as the red. It's nice to have a highlight color, a nice opaque yellow to go spotting over the sunny side of a tree or something. Um, and it's a nice color for doing a nice sunny field. If you spread it out over the white paper, it's a really beautiful yellow, and it's a cadmium, so it's nice and light fast. Um, I wouldn't mix it with the titanium much because I believe in fresco like that, the cadmium will fade. Uh, Maybe that's only in sunshine. I don't remember where I read that. I think I've read it a few times, but yeah. So that's my Lukas experience. I really I really used to like the brand. There's some stinker pigments. I mean, obviously the earth colors. I tell you what, I'll pull that back over here and we'll just for fun flip this guy over, and you can look at some Lukas earths. This is their English red, I think. I might have these mixed up. Yep, that's their English red, which isn't. I mean, this isn't a bad. The English red is always going to be kind of opaque and it just flops on the paper. So this is decent. If I'm going to use that color, which I'm probably not. For that color, I would much rather use a transparent paint. This is their burnt sienna, and it's a mixture of I don't know 4 different pigments. There's black in there. There's PR 101, and it's not great. It's just flat. I think that's one of the colors that people would complain about it being chalky. Um, that's their raw umber, and I don't remember what this one. One of these might be sepia, or maybe that's just black. Oh yeah, that's just black. I bought a tube of their black, which is it's not worth reviewing because it's black and hard to screw up black or excel at it. So this is their raw umber, which isn't. I mean, that's not awful. It's just it's real. It's a mixture, and I believe it has black in it. I'd have to look it up. Um, yeah, there's a reason that I don't use Lukas Earths, and the other Earths are again crazy weird mixes, or at least they used to be. So yeah, I just go to Da Vinci. Da Vinci Earths are cheap. They're fantastic. Shinhan, the old Shinhan Earths are cheap and fantastic. Um, so I have loved Lukas 1862 watercolors in the past. Uh, Rolling forward, I don't think I'm going to use them anymore. I think that they're just being nickel and dimed to death by De La Rowney. It's sad, but there's too many other good brands of paints out there that deserve my money. Um, Sorry, I'm just cleaning. There's a hair in there, and it's my OCD is off the charts right now, trying to get that out of there. Um, yeah, that's just there's so many great brands of paint. I'll use up what I got, which is going to take me a decade or two. Um, Thankfully, the colors that I like, I have quite a bit of in the old regime, as it were. The made in Germany stuff, the original Lukas made paint. So I'm super happy to have that moving forward, buying brand new stuff from Jerry's and starting a brand new palette. It's usable paint. De La Rowney paint is usable paint. A lot of people like it. I don't like the inconsistency. I don't like opening up a tube of paint and finding that it's separated binder, and I swish a toothpick around in there and it just becomes a soupy mess because there's just not enough pigment. And that, I mean, Daniel Smith is guilty of that. I got a tube of Daniel Smith Lunar Blue that is just they should be embarrassed that I own it. Um, you tip it upside down and the binder just pours out, and the pigments are all separated. Now they're Lunar Blue. It's Phthalo Blue, and again the magnetic black. So it's a weird magnetic black is kind of a weird pigment to begin with, but yeah, I mean, tubes get screwed up. I have a Utrecht, this guy right here, uh, Cadmium Yellow Deep Pure, not a cheap tube of paint, and it's just a soupy, soupy mess. And the whole tube, I mean, I could pour the whole tube out on the paper right now. I was trying to put it on pallets last night. It's just a disaster. So paint companies are going to screw up. There's going to be inconsistencies, but every other tube that I'm seeing now from Lukas from De La Rowney's factory, and 2 tubes out of 3 from De La Rowney 10 years ago being gooey, stretchy, horrible separated masses. I'm done. It's disappointing, but like I say, there's brands out there that deserve my attention. Some newer brands that are coming out. The Art Whale, surprisingly decent. I'm hoping that they stick with it. And yeah, they're a Chinese company, but they're making some good paint. Fugitive colors. Some of their color mixes are crazy. Sorry, their pigment labeling is off. I don't know if that's intentionally dishonest or just ignorance. Either thing is not acceptable. But they're super cheap Chinese paints, but they're good quality. They behave well. They behave like professional watercolor paint. So it's good for practice, if nothing else. So yeah, I'm sure there's reviews on Jerry's now of people that are just buying Lukas for the first time and they think they're just wonderful. But man, comparing the old formula, the consistency that I saw across the board, uh, and what it is now, it's just depressing when you pour paint into a well and it takes 6 weeks to cure or even skim over, um, because there's just so much liquid in there. That's depressing. That's yeah, it's sad. So and now you can see in this is the Lukas Raw Umber. You see how chalky it looks. I think that's one of the things that people complain about when they say Lukas is chalky, but boy, they're clean colors. They are plenty clean. Nice, vibrant, transparent. They mix well. So yeah, up until now, I've been pretty happy with Lukas, but past couple years has been slowly declining in quality, in my opinion. So I'm not gonna continue purchasing them. But I will definitely use up what I got because I know the pigments and the pigments are light fast. The ones that I have. Um, Very usable paint, very serviceable paint. Oh, sorry for the unscripted mess that this was. If you've made it this far, wow, that's impressive. I appreciate you watching. Hit the like and subscribe buttons if you feel so inclined. I appreciate all the interaction and drop a comment in the comments as well. Suggestions, yeah, advice. um, getting started still on my YouTube channel and what I could do different. I'm open to all of it. Always looking to improve. So I'm gonna stop this monstrosity now and get it published. Thanks, guys.